Part 5. Frankie decided to wear a thin strap, sleeveless black dress to the funeral, along with high-heeled black sandals. It was normal wear at a funeral for young ladies of her age. As she closed the front door, her mother indicated that she needed to go back in the house. She returned after a few minutes, and they set off at 7 a.m. to be on time for a 9 a.m. funeral, Francesco driving the family. The ride over was as scenic as most Jamaican cross-country trips are. As the morning grew brighter, they saw scenic mountain ranges in the distance change from misty to bold green. Mighty old trees they passed up close, a peloton of bikers returning from a morning ride, and housing developments with orderly layouts and occasionally the remains of a disused factory or a stone aqueduct that were essential to some business in the past. They climbed the hill into Mandeville and using a navigation app rolled through into the property where the funeral would be held. Frankie held her breath as she saw an aquamarine dome and a minaret. In the yard, as expected, the mourners dressed somberly but also conservatively, with most of the women's heads covered. Frankie froze in the car as others got out, except for her mother, who handed her a black knit bolero and a fringed black and white shawl. Gratefully, Frankie took them with thanks and put them on before getting out of the car. Her mother was 2 sizes bigger than her, but without it, she would not be able to go inside of the prayer area. The service was solemn and beautiful, and the mourners were not able to all hold in the hall, with many watching from under an overflow tent on the lawn. The Lawlell family with Alona were able to sit inside together. The burial would be at the same place, and then the gathering solemnly socialized and were served a meal. Frankie and Alona locked arms at the elbows and walked as they used to do when they were girls. They were just 6 months apart, Frankie being older, but Alona chose to stay in Jamaica and study literature and then went back to live in Mandeville by herself in the old Weeks family house where her grandparents had lived. No one knew what she did from day to day and smugly called her a house daughter. They did not keep in close touch, but they remained good friends. Alona was talking about some recent books by Caribbean authors when Frankie interrupted her. Can you introduce me to Angola Salmon? He's my sister's geography teacher, and he seems such a natural educator. I've been listening to him. Salman had been standing quite close to them, talking with two women who, despite the sad occasion, were sharing a joke with him. It seemed easy to join them. Alona walked in. Angola saw her and leaned in for a cheek kiss, which seemed to astonish the two women, who he then introduced as relatives. We went to high school together, he explained to them. Then he turned to meet Frankie. And this is my cousin Frankie, said Alona. You are her geography tutor. He furrowed his brows. I teach Damilola, but you look like a grown-up version of her. Frankie's breath was taken away as his voice connected with his physical presence. He looked just as she imagined. Soft eyes, gentle smile, friendly demeanor, with a crisp, business-like demeanor. All of this within a solidly built body, average height, but athletic under the morning suit. His handshake was firm enough to be businesslike, but not dominant nor lingering. He stood evenly on both feet and placed his hands at his side, not locking himself away, not aloof and not awkward. This was a man who was easygoing and confident in himself beyond his cultured upbringing. As my sister, Frankie offered her hand, which he shook, and caused astonishment for his two relatives again. I've been listening in to your classes. You're such a good teacher. I never had this interest in rock formations before. She smiled and leaned her head sideways, looking him directly in the eyes. He nodded thanks, but did not pursue the conversation. At that moment, Damilola came up. Hi, Mr. Salmon. It's Damilola. I'm so sorry about your loss. She looked up at him with puppy eyes and wrung her hands. He thanked her and then excused himself as he had to attend to his family, and then he rejoined his two female relatives who had moved a few steps away. Damilola faced Frankie. I saw him first. He's my teacher. What? You were making eyes at him, Frankie. That's the whole reason why you came down here. Frankie tried to wave her sister away, but Damilola persisted. Alona, you saw her. She came here for him, always taking away other people's stuff. She walked away, annoyed. Embarrassed, Frankie looked away, but Alona linked her elbow again and led her away. I thought you had grown out of that, Frankie, taking other people's stuff. So Frankie had a reputation of riding on the hard work of others, which was somewhat true. She got her friends because she routinely disobeyed the rules of making friends with your friend's friend and then moving on with them. She entered competitions only where she assessed that she would win. The most famous example is when she entered a competition that was not well promoted. She took her best classwork that was already framed at home and entered and was the winner in a weak field. Now, here she was, determined to be Angola's friend when he was already Alona's friend and Damilola's teacher. The Lawlall family returned to Kingston without Frankie, who went to the Weekes' family home with Alona. As they turned into the driveway, Frankie was emotionally overwhelmed with nostalgia. She had not been to the home in nearly 10 years, when she was 16, but she felt transported back to when she was 5, when she spent a whole summer with Alona. The housing estate was created 90 years before on lots that would house a 20 apartment block now. Tucked within the estate, far from the main road, the yard was delineated by shade trees and bougainvillea shrubs. The driveway was lined on both sides with hibiscus, and on either side were lawns big enough for a tennis court to be laid out on each. The house was a single-story lodge with a deep wraparound veranda gained by an entrance of 7 steps at the front, but at the back of the house it was level with the back lawn. Alona parked at the back, where Frankie noticed there were solar panels on 8-foot-high posts, and they entered from the back veranda, which was tiled with black and gold patterned concrete tiles. Aside from the kitchen, which had a tile floor, the rest of the house was plank hardwood that Frankie saw was gleaming with proper maintenance. Everything in the house seemed to have not moved on from that time. Even the electronic equipment like the television and radio were on their own 4 feet. Wow, Alona, you kept everything as it has been forever. Do you have internet? Alona laughed and said that the house had all the modern conveniences and ran on solar power. Then Alona called out to someone, and a middle-aged woman appeared, and who was introduced as a help who lived in, a lifestyle that Frankie's family had long left behind. A lunch had been waiting on them, but having just come from the funeral repast, Frankie and Alona sat on the back veranda and sipped some juice, made with limes from the yard and honey from Alona's beehives. I've been selling it in bulk, but decided just a few weeks ago to have my own brand, Alona explained. Oh, I didn't know that guardhouse had a honey business, Alona said. It's not. This is my business with my own money. Alona's voice was proud and firm. And if people say that, well, the property is owned by Guardhouse, so it has an investment in the business, fine. I will leave this house and take the hives and the apiary business with me. Nobody's going to ask you to leave, Alona, Frankie said quickly. The line between what was owned by Guardhouse and what was owned by individual members of the family had been a cause of friction in the past. Anyway, if you were not living here, this house would be ruined. They should be paying you to maintain it, maybe. So what's the name of your business? Alona said that she did not have a name for it as yet, but as they spoke, Frankie realized that she could take advantage of small business grants and loans, but she needed to move her business from bookkeeping to delivering final accounts. They spent the next few hours discussing business and also life. Alona expressed her love of country life and wanting to build a business of her own. Frankie said that was admirable, but she did not have to build it on her own. She in turn told her cousin that she had entered the Miss Island Glamour Beauty competition with no other plans on the horizon. Alona listened carefully and decided that she wanted to continue to have an easy and honest relationship with Frankie, just like when they were children. The only way to have that friendship would be to test its quality. So she asked a direct question and hoped she would not be rebuffed. You know that competition, Miss Anne Glamour Beauty, has a reputation for being the one for women who are looking for rich men. The organizers raised the entrance age because of the number of entrants who saw it as a career choice straight out of high school. Alona ran along with her comment without her pause, so that her cousin hopefully would not be offended. She carried on. No one would say that about you, of course, because you already have advanced degrees and you're not going to be going that route to find a rich man. I did not know about that reputation, Frankie said, feeling a bit cute, but also protected because of her own background. Gosh, it sounds like I would be in a shark tank, but I'm not trying to find a husband, as you put it. With that matter now openly available for discussion, the cousins spent the rest of the evening in happy conversation until bedtime. The following morning, after being served breakfast in the dining room, a male voice was heard coming from the back speaking to the help. An electric car had come in unheard and unseen. It was a friendly conversation between people who knew each other. Then soft footsteps were heard crossing the wooden floor, and the silhouette of a male figure was cast from the dining room door. Frankie could not see the face. She only noted a figure in a loose shirt and sweats and Crocs. Then she realized she had been holding her breath because she recognized the voice as Angola's. He came across and gave Alona a kiss on the cheek. Then he drew up a chair. It almost seemed like someone who had arrived home. Aren't you supposed to be in Kingston? Alona said. You remember Frankie, my cousin? Yes, I did not know that you had a guest. Frankie did not understand why that comment caused her stomach to flip. Frankie spent half of growing up here like me, so why aren't you home instead of hiding out? And why aren't you home instead of hiding out here in Mandeville at your grandfather's house? Angola looked a bit embarrassed because he was trying to avoid his father and discussions about his future. Guilty as charged, he said, but I am indeed on my way back into Kingston and decided to spend a little time with my dear friend Alona if she would be nice. Alona tapped his arm. Proud of you. Seeing her cousin touch Angola's muscular forearm also caused Frankie's emotions to rattle her, and she fought to understand why, and also tried to keep her smile frozen on her face. My God, she thought, I like him, which would be okay if he was not going back to his life abroad in a few days and if I was not entering a beauty pageant. Then she realized that Alona was talking to her. Frankie, Angola asked how long you'll be here, she was saying. Saying, well, I had not decided, but I could get a ride back now. Then it would save the car coming for me to pick me up, if that's okay with you, Angola. He shrugged. Alona stared at her cousin. Of course. He can drop you back this morning. Let me help you zip up your bag. As soon as they were both in the bedroom with Frankie's things, Frankie turned on her cousin before she could get in a word. Tell me the truth, Alona. Will it be a problem for you if I became his friend? He would be a lovely friend for you, Frankie. I hope that you get to know each other. Great, but I want to hear it from you loud and clear that you are not interested in him or that you're not currently in a relationship with him. I've never been in a relationship with Angola, and I don't have an interest in him, but I need to give you some information that should help you with this impetuous decision of throwing yourself at him. Frankie smiled confidently. Now that the issue with her cousin had been cleared, she felt free to pursue her interests with Angola as far as it would naturally go. Already the butterflies were dancing in her stomach and on the soles of her feet. Go ahead, you tell me that he's gay, right? Alona gave her cousin a smile like she was an idiot. The Salmon family is a very religious and a very traditional family. All of their friends are the same Click, you will not be welcomed. I have known him from the time we were in grade 186, and I've never been invited to his house over all these years. His parents were taking no chances, so a girl from Trinidad was identified for him when he turned 17, and that plan may still be on the table. No modern girl is going to be waiting on a man for 10 years, Frankie laughed, but her cousin did not. I guess you will find out very soon, Frankie said.